Emily Carter tightened her grip on her son Noah's small hand as the cold rain lashed against them. The evening sky had turned almost black, and the streets were nearly empty. She had just finished a long shift at the grocery store and was hurrying home before the storm grew worse. Life had not been easy since her husband died 3 years earlier. Every day was a struggle between paying bills, raising Noah, and keeping hope alive. Yet despite everything, Emily had never allowed hardship to make her bitter. As they passed an old bus stop, Noah suddenly tugged on her sleeve. "Mom, look." Sitting on the bench was an elderly man. His grey coat was soaked through, and he seemed to be shivering uncontrollably. A wooden cane rested beside him. Rainwater dripped from his silver hair as cars splashed past without slowing. Emily hesitated. She was exhausted. She was late. And she barely had enough money for herself and Noah. But something about the old man's lonely figure touched her heart. She approached carefully. "Sir, are you all right?" The man looked up. His pale blue eyes seemed tired but kind. "My leg isn't what it used to be," he said with a weak smile. "I was trying to walk home before the storm got worse." "Do you live far?" "A few blocks," he replied. Emily glanced down the dark street. The rain was becoming heavier. Without thinking further, she said, "Get in, let me take you home." The old man blinked in surprise. "You don't have to do that." "I know," Emily replied softly. "But you shouldn't be out here alone." Together, she and Noah helped him stand. Emily called a rideshare using the last money she had set aside for the week. The old man looked embarrassed. "You're spending money on a stranger." Emily smiled. "Maybe someday someone will help my son if he needs it." The elderly man stared at her for a moment but said nothing. The ride was quiet. Noah chatted happily while the old man listened. When they finally arrived, Emily realized the house before them wasn't a house at all. It was a massive estate hidden behind iron gate. The driveway stretched so far she could barely see the mansion through the rain. Noah's eyes widened. "Mom, this place is huge." The old man chuckled. "I suppose it is." Emily felt awkward. She had assumed he lived in a small apartment or modest home. A security guard immediately opened the gate. "Mr. Harrison," the guard exclaimed. "We've been looking everywhere for you." The old man waved him off. "I'm perfectly fine." Several staff members hurried outside carrying umbrellas. Before leaving, the old man turned toward Emily. "Thank you." "It was nothing." "No," he said quietly. "People often say that. But kindness is never nothing." Emily smiled politely. "Take care of yourself." The old man nodded. "And you take care of that young man." Noah grinned proudly. The ride home felt longer. Emily stared out the window wondering about the strange encounter. By the time she reached her small rented house, she had almost forgotten about it. The next morning began like every other. The alarm rang too early. Noah prepared for school. Bills sat piled on the kitchen table. Emily drank cheap coffee while worrying about rent. Then there was a knock at the door. She frowned. Nobody ever visited. Opening the door, she found a man in a black suit standing beside a luxury car. "Emily Carter?" "Yes. My name is James. I work for Mr. William Harrison." Emily immediately remembered the elderly man. "Is everything all right? Mr. Harrison would like to see you." Confusion crossed her face. "Why?" James smiled. "He insists." Emily almost refused. She had work, responsibilities, no time for mysterious invitations. But something told her she should go. After dropping Noah at school, she followed the driver. An hour later, she stood inside the same mansion she had seen the night before. The interior looked like something from a movie. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead. Marble floors reflected sunlight. Paintings worth fortunes lined the walls. Emily felt completely out of place. Moments later, Mr. Harrison entered. And like the previous evening, he looked strong and dignified. "Well," he said warmly, "it's good to see you again." Emily smiled nervously. "You seem much better." "Thanks to you." He gestured toward a chair. "Please sit." She obeyed. A maid brought tea. The old man remained silent for several moments. Finally, he spoke. "Do you know who I am?" Emily shook her head. "No." William Harrison smiled faintly. "I spent 40 years building one of the largest construction companies in the state." Emily's eyes widened. She had heard the name before. Everyone had. His company appeared on skyscrapers, hospitals, and major developments across the country. "You're that William Harrison?" "The very same." Emily suddenly understood why the mansion was so enormous. "But why am I here?" Mr. Harrison looked toward the window. "Last night was important. I only help you get home. You did more than that." His expression became thoughtful. "Do you know how many people walked past me?" Emily remained silent. "Dozens." His voice carried sadness. They saw an old man sitting in the rain and ignored him. He turned back toward her. "But you stop." "Anyone would have." "No," he replied. "Most didn't." The room fell quiet. Then William continued. "My wife died 10 years ago. My son died 5 years ago." Emily's heart sank. "I'm sorry." "Thank you." He nodded slowly. "Since then, I've had money, employees, advisors, lawyers, but very few people who genuinely care about others." Emily listened carefully. "Last night," he continued, "I wasn't testing anyone. I simply wanted to walk through town like an ordinary person. Then the storm came." He smiled. "And a struggling single mother spent her last dollars helping a stranger." Emily felt embarrassed. "I couldn't leave you there." William studied her face. "Exactly." For the first time, Emily sensed there was a deeper reason for this meeting. Something important. Something. But she had no idea what it was. William leaned forward. "Tell me about yourself, Emily." She hesitated before sharing her story. She spoke about losing her husband. About raising Noah alone. About working long hours. About dreams she had abandoned years ago. William listened without interruption. When she finished, his eyes seemed filled with respect. "You remind me of someone." "Who?" "My wife." Emily blinked. She believed character mattered more than wealth. He smiled sadly. And she was right. A clock ticked softly somewhere in the mansion. Then William reached into a drawer and removed a thick folder. He placed it on the table. Emily stared at it. "What is that?" William's smile grew mysterious. "A beginning." Emily looked from the folder to the old man. Her heartbeat quickened. She had no idea that inside that folder was a decision that would change her life forever. And as William Harrison slowly pushed it toward her, she realized the strange encounter in the rain had been only the first chapter of a story she never could have imagined. Part 8 ends. Emily stared at the folder resting on the polished oak table. For a moment, neither she nor William Harrison spoke. The room felt strangely quiet. Outside the tall windows, sunlight illuminated the mansion's gardens, but Emily could hear only the pounding of her own heartbeat. "What do you mean by a beginning?" she finally asked. William folded his hands. "Open it." Slowly, Emily reached for the folder. Her fingers trembled slightly. Inside were several documents, photographs, and a neatly typed proposal. The first page made her eyes widen. She looked up immediately. There must be some mistake. There isn't, William replied calmly. But this can't be for me. It is. Emily stared at the paper again. The proposal offered her a management position at one of Harrison Community Centers, a charitable organization funded by William Harrison's foundation. The salary was nearly 3 times what she earned at the grocery store. Health benefit, paid vacation, educational support, even childcare assistance. Emily could barely process what she was reading. I don't understand. William smiled gently. You said yesterday that you once dreamed of helping families. Yes, but that was years ago. Dreams don't expire because life becomes difficult. Emily lowered her eyes. For years she had buried that dream beneath responsibilities and bills. When Noah was born, she had planned to study social work. Then her husband died. Everything changed. Survival became the priority. Now this opportunity sat in front of her like something impossible. You don't even know me, she whispered. William leaned back. I know enough. She shook her head. No, you don't. Then tell me, he said. Emily hesitated. I make mistakes. So do I. Sometimes I get overwhelmed. Everyone does. I'm not qualified for something like this. William smiled. Qualifications can be taught. Character cannot. The words struck her deeply. For years she had felt invisible. Just another exhausted single mother trying to get through each day. Nobody had looked at her and seen potential. Nobody except this elderly man. William stood and walked toward the window. You know, he said, when I started my company, I had nothing. Emily listened carefully. My father worked in a factory. We lived in a tiny apartment. Many people thought I would never accomplish anything. He turned toward her. But one person believed in me. Who? A teacher. His eyes softened. She told me that success isn't about what people have. It's about who they become. Emily felt emotion rising in her chest. William continued. That teacher changed my life. He paused. I never forgot her. The old man returned to his chair. Now I'm years old. A shadow crossed his face. I've spent much of my life building buildings. His gaze met hers. But lately I've been thinking about building people. Emily looked down at the folder again. The offer felt unreal. What if I fail? William chuckled. Then you'll fail. She blinked. What? Failure isn't fate. His smile widened. The only true failure is never trying. For the first time since entering the mansion, Emily left. A genuine laugh. The kind she hadn't experienced in years. William smiled in return. There she is. Who? The woman who helped a stranger in the rain. Emily shook her head. You make me sound extraordinary. No. William's expression became serious. I make you sound exactly as you are. The meeting lasted another hour. They discussed the community center. Its programs for struggling families. Its tutoring services. Its support groups for single parents. The more Emily learned, the more excited she became. This wasn't merely a job. It was meaningful work. Work that could actually improve lives. Before leaving, William offered one final piece of advice. Don't make your decision based on fear. Emily nodded. I'll think about it. Good. As she prepared to leave, William called after her. One more thing. She turned. Yes. Thank you. Emily smiled. For what? The old man's eyes grew warm. For reminding me that kindness still exists. That afternoon, Emily picked Noah up from school. The boy immediately noticed something different. You look happy. She left. Do I? A little. On the drive home, she explained everything. Noah listened with wide eyes. You mean the old man from the rain? The same van. Wow. He thought for a moment. Mom? Yes. You should take the job. Emily smiled. You think so? Definitely. Why? Noah shrugged. Because whenever you talk about helping people, your face changes. Emily felt tears threatening to form. How does it change? You smile. The simple answer nearly broke her heart. That evening she sat alone at the kitchen table after Noah went to bed. The folder remained open beside her. For years she had accepted that life would always be difficult. Work. Bills. Stress. Repeat. But now a door had opened. The question was whether she was brave enough to walk through it. She thought about her husband. How he had always encouraged her. How he had believed she could do anything. And suddenly she knew. The next morning she called William Harrison. The old man answered personally. Good morning, Emily. She smiled. How did you know it was me? I was hoping you'd call. Emily took a deep breath. I'll accept the position. For a moment there was silence. Then she heard genuine happiness in his voice. Excellent. The following months transformed her life. The work was challenging but rewarding. Every day she helped families facing struggles similar to her own. She organized food programs, supported single parents, created educational opportunities for children. And for the first time in years, she felt she was exactly where she belonged. Noah noticed the difference too. His mother laughed more, smiled more, dreamed again. Meanwhile, William Harrison became a regular presence in their lives. Not as a wealthy businessman, not as a benefactor, but as a friend. He attended Noah's soccer games, shared trees over dinner, even taught Noah how to play chess. The lonely old man who had once sat in the rain became part of their family. One year later, the community center celebrated its anniversary. Hundreds of families attended. Children played in the courtyard. Volunteers served food. Laughter filled the air. During the ceremony, William stepped onto the stage. The crowd applauded. He raised a hand for silence. I've spent my life making investments, he began. But the best investment I've ever made wasn't in a company. His eyes found Emily in the audience. It was in a person. Emily immediately felt embarrassed. The crowd turned toward her. William smiled. One rainy evening, a woman chose kindness when it would have been easier to walk away. The room grew quiet. She expected nothing in return. His voice softened. But because of that simple act, thousands of lives have been touched through the work she now leads. Emily wiped away tears. William continued. The world changes when ordinary people choose compassion. The audience erupted into applause. Emily looked around the room. At the families receiving help. At the children laughing. At Noah standing proudly beside her. And at the elderly man whose life had crossed hers by pure chance. Or perhaps not by chance at all. She remembered the rain. The bus stop. The cold night. The moment she had said, "Get in, let me take you home." At the time, it had seemed like a small act. A simple decision. Nothing more. But standing there now, surrounded by lives transformed through that single choice, Emily finally understood a powerful truth. Kindness is never small. Because sometimes the smallest act of compassion becomes the beginning of a completely different future. The end.